Hi, this is DarkFox127 and welcome to End of the Scone Creation Kit tutorial video. In today's video, I'm going to be covering dummy items. I don't think this is something I've covered before, and I know that I certainly haven't covered the NifSkope element of it, which makes this video a little bit of a hybrid than usual, as I have been doing some NifSkope tutorials recently, and this kind of falls under that category as well. So what are dummy items? Some of you may or may not use them. So if you're making a player home, you'll probably use these an awful lot less, if at all. But if you are making things like dungeons and exterior locations that you come across and discover, stuff that you pick up throughout the world as you explore, dummy items are very, very useful and they are highly recommended. So what dummy items do is it basically puts a template of an item, not an item itself, where it would then spawn an item that is relevant to the situation. So it's more scaled to the player's level, essentially. Otherwise, what happens when you just decide to put a potion down, you pick a high-level potion that you want there because it looks pretty, and then the player comes along at level 2 into your dungeon, picks up a freaking plentiful health potion and absolutely slaughters the boss. So what you want to do is have health potions pop up throughout the game that are scaled to the player's level, so that it's a lot more balanced, essentially. So you'll see here that we have a number of items. I don't know why. I'm at the Alchemist Shack. It just it was the first thing I clicked on. It's at the top of the list of exterior cells, but it seems to have a few items, so it kind of seems to be perfect. If we wanted to add more here, what I'm going to show you is essentially a few different dummy items, the collection of dummy items actually, and how you use them. And then we'll also dig into how you can make your own, because this doesn't cover all of them. The game doesn't anyway. So if we go to the filter at the top and we type in dummy, and we just go into the all filter right at the very bottom, you will see there are a ton of dummy items. There's an awful lot for weapons, all different shapes and sizes, and they are sort of semi-transparent meshes with different pretty colours. I think the colours are symbolising things in this case, like Imperial and Suns and different stuff like that. But sometimes they're just whatever colour they are. But you go down, there's all these dummy items, and essentially you'll spawn that item at the dummy, and it just gives you a good rough place. It really helps with positioning. So the fact that it's not just a standard marker means that you can actually make sure that you roughly place, see a sort of outline of what the item will be, and you can place it in the world a little nicer, so that the dummy item doesn't just bounce off something or end up embedded into something. Although some dummy items, some gauntlets, for example, let's take a look at the gauntlet one. Not all gauntlets are exactly shaped like this, but it's good that it gives you a rough outline. So you'll see here that you've got potion. Potions tend to be a lot smaller than that, or about that size if they're large ones, sometimes wider than that. So whenever you do sort of just dump a dummy item in, and you do literally just drag and drop these, like dummy arrows, dummy dagger, like I say, you just drag them in, floor them, put them in there. When you do put a dummy item in, just make sure you give a good bit of room around it, just in case something is bigger than you would expect it to be. Potions, I find you can move these, duplicate them, and you can have them cross over each other a little bit, because most of the time the potions aren't exactly that wide. And then if you do have them apart too much, then what tends to happen is that they end up with a lot of space between them, and it doesn't quite look right. So you can mess around with it. Books are a really interesting one. It's kind of good that these are here. When you put books in, try and put them kind of sitting on each other, close to exactly how they should be. I think these represent the thickest books in the game, and then smaller books will just bounce and hopefully land nicely on each other. They can freak out and go apeshit, but that's pretty much just Skyrim's Havoc engine in a nutshell anyway. There's not a lot you can do about that, other than don't havoc settle. But if you use don't havoc settle on these, so you double click on them and you go don't havoc settle, it might cause you problems, because although you might have it, oh, that's sitting perfectly on there, don't havoc settle that, and then it puts a book that's thinner on it, then that book's just going to float and it's going to look ridiculous. So do just let the havoc drop these in place to each other. So putting a dummy item does nothing unless you actually use leveled lists. Now, this is something that I covered long ago in a video that has terrible audio, probably just as bad a visual, but it does cover it to some extent. I'll slap it up top there, as I don't currently have a more up-to-date one, but it should cover the basics. But essentially what you want to do is use leveled items that essentially have lists, and even lists within lists, of items that are spawned with random chances to basically put an item there. So books are pretty easy. They always tend to use the L item book clutter. And if I do just go L item book clutter in the filter, open that up for you, give you an idea what this does. It has all the books in the game, all the vanilla ones at least. And then what it does is it will pick one of these out at random, and that will go there. Now, if you're working with a dungeon and there's a very good lore reason that you don't want all of these books to be potential books to spawn, then you may have to make your own leveled list, and then you can put that in there. Obviously, you could have any leveled item, so you could spawn a potion here if you wanted. It would probably work, but it's not a good idea. You want to have the shape of the item so that you can better place it without it being there, if that makes sense, like I described. So you would pick a leveled item. So books are easy, and then potions tend to be like leveled apothecary potion, and then you've got all sorts. You can change this to any potion, cure potions only, resistance potions. Again, you can make your own leveled items, and you just see what spawns and how it goes. So a lot of the time you'd have like leveled item, potion, the standard ones that you'd use in the dungeon for like fortify this, fortify that. So if you've got a boss that's going to need a bow to take him down, fortify some marksmen, pick a good one, or just a standard. A lot of the common ones would be like restore health, and you can go for the best ones, so a bit higher up. So it's good to have that level of just a standard potion and something that might be a little bit more than your level, just to give you that extra bit of a boost. If you've got something hidden in a corner that's like, okay, we want this potion to be a little more special, like a well done for finding it. Sorry if you can hear birds in the background. It's insane. They're the noisiest things on the earth. You wouldn't believe. So essentially you use level items. Now we're going to get into the fun stuff. I'm going to go ahead and get NifSkope loaded up. And what we're going to do is we are going to make a dummy item for something like ore that doesn't have its own dummy item, because if I just go back into dummies, so not all of the shapes of items in the game, there's a lot of them, are actually covered, and some of the things that I noticed just didn't have dummy items for them. So I believe ingots may have been one of them. I don't know if there is a dummy ingot in here. Don't think there is, but ore was definitely one of them. So what I like to do is have a bucket that has a load of ore in it, and I like to be able to put random ore in there. So I'm going to go ahead, dive into NifSkope, and I'm going to show you how to do that. Okay, so I went ahead and found one that I made earlier, a scroll one. It's a bit of an interesting example because scrolls actually come as single and double scrolls. So this is a bit of a weird one. So what I figured is I would choose the scroll that is the largest scroll, and then the other scrolls can spawn off of that. Again, just give me a rough idea what the shape and positioning would be. And what I've done here, I've just made it purple because for some reason I just associate purple with enchantment stuff and scrolls and magic. And here it's all set up as like an editor marker. If you untick markers on NifSkope, and you will need to tick this on, by the way, this show markers option. If you have an older version of NifSkope, this might look a bit different. I don't actually have the latest version. Someone corrected me in one of the last videos saying that they think there is a newer version slightly. I haven't got it yet. This just works for me. But you'll want to do the markers option there. And essentially what we want to do is we want to pick out an item and change it to be a marker. So in order to get to the ore that I want, I'm going to navigate to my unpacked Skyrim. If you want to know how to get your Skyrim unpacked using a BSA extractor, I do have a video for that I'll put up top now. And essentially, once you've got all of the vanilla assets extracted, you can just sort of place them where you want. I've got them in my Skyrim folder, main directory in LE Unpacked. Again, sorry for these birds. I'm going to go out and strangle one in a minute. And essentially, you're going to want to find your ore. So I'm going to take a guess. Otherwise, I'll have to look in the creation kit. Nope, I don't know where they are. So what you want to do is just type in ore. It's going to give us a lot of junk. Let's go under items and MISC. Let's get ore iron. I just want the general shape of one. I just copy this model, this ore iron 01 NIF, and I go back to my folder structure, and I'll just go back one to meshes, paste it in here, let it find it for me, open it up in NifSkope. And then what I want to do is change this into an editor marker. So in order to do that, I'm just going to put this to the left-hand side. Then I'm going to put my other one to, did I say left? Right. I don't know my left and right anymore. So I'm going to put one to the left, one to the right. And I'm just going to copy a few things over. So you'll see that this actually has collision. Straight away, we don't need collision. That will come off the thing that spawns. So you can just remove collision flat out. Invisible marker, this is what you see when it goes into your inventory, what angle it spins and puts it at. You can delete that, so you do block and remove branch. And then it's also got some BS light shade property. I'm actually going to go ahead, block, remove the BS lighting shade property. It will disappear completely, which is fine. And I'm going to go BS effect shader property here on this one. You could sort out one of the dummy items in the game. Again, just do that same trick of finding the NIF for one of them. And I'm just going to copy the branch of BS effect shader property. And then I am going to hover over, click on BS fade node, block, paste branch. What you might find is it doesn't actually attach itself to the node. So you need to go on nitri shape. You'll have to go under shader property. I think you just double click in it and then you just type in this number. So it's just going to be 4 and then hit enter. And it will attach it to the correct node. So it's gone onto the nitri shape. And then what you'll get is this lovely white blob of blobbiness. Now, before we do anything else, I want to go under BS X flags. And this is set to editor marker. You'll see it doesn't have anything else. It's just got bit 5 editor marker 32. So what you want to do is go under BSX flags here. If it doesn't have BSX flags, then just copy this one. So just do block copy branch and paste over that node again, the top node. In this case, we do have one. I can double click, do 32, hit enter. Don't even have to go into the menu, and that'll be an editor marker. I want to change the name from Iron Ore 01. I don't think this really makes a difference, but it's a little cleaner, which is nice. And then I'm just going to call it, I think, Dummy Ore. And then the other one I want to do is go under nitri shape. If you go under nitri shape here, what this does, I think this does make a difference. And you want to call it editor marker. I think the game may sort of look out for that, but I'm not 100% sure. There we go. So editor marker, it's all nice and clean now, nice and sorted. Now the other thing is the color and being able to visibly see it. So again, tick markers and you'll see that it is a big white blob. Now that doesn't help when it comes to placing it. You want to be able to see through it a little bit, just so you can see the surroundings of it and how you're placing it. You'll see all the ones in the kit were semi-transparent, like I said. So it doesn't actually have an alpha property. So if we just drag this back, the other thing that you're going to want to copy is the ni alpha property. So block, copy branch. If it already has one, delete it and just copy this one across. It's just easier. And this time click on the nitri shape and go block and paste. Now again, you'll want to make sure that it's attached itself to the nitri shape. So you can do that by going on the nitri shape and it should fill alpha property. If it doesn't, then you can go back and you can just double click and you can just put the number, in this case 5 in. But I've found that it tends to like taking the alpha property not too badly. So once that's on there, that is going to allow you to do transparency on it. You can open this back up. You can click on the nitri shape itself, and under BS effect property, let me just double check that for a second. No, it's not. Sorry, it's the nitri shape data. So if we go into the nitri shape data, we might as well keep the other one next to it, actually, just so we know what we're doing. The trick of NifSkope is just to copy everything that another NIF has and hope for the best. So what we've got here, this doesn't have any vertex colors. Now, vertex colors I've covered in another video, which again I'll link up top there. But essentially, this allows you to change the color of a mesh without having to mess with textures. And as long as it's like, in this case, sort of transparent, or it's like a neutral color, it will allow you to easily change the color of it, which is kind of neat without having to mess around with textures, like I say. Now, as this doesn't have vertex colors, which is kind of good because I can show you how to add these in. You can double click has vertex colors, make sure it's yes, and tick on this little recycle sort of button, and you should see that a load of vertex colors appear, and you got a whole lot of bright white. And what you want to do is also check on the nitri shape, click on there, or is it nitri shape? I'm all over the place. No, it's not. It's BS Effect Shaders Property. You will want to double click into what I believe is the second flag. Yep, you want to go into Shader Flags 2, and you want to make sure that it has vertex colors, which is really interesting because this already does, but you can double click on it. You can go to the arrow, tick vertex colors, and then you go back into that nitri shape data, and then you would do the whole jazz with the has vertex colors, and then you can change the color. I don't know why it was set to having vertex colors, but it wasn't enabled. That seems a bit weird. Probably a bug. And then you can get this little scroll wheel up, and what you can do is you can move this around, twizzle it about, and you can give it a custom color. In this case, we're going to give it a bit of a teal color. Click OK. But it's not transparent. That's because this slider, which completely went over my head the other day, and we spent ages on stream trying to figure out, but this is your alpha slider. So the lower down you put this, the more invisible it becomes. So you'll want this about midway. Okay, and then you can see it's transparent. You can tell it's transparent because you'll see the lines of the grid, which you couldn't see before. And now we've got a transparent dummy or object. So I'm just going to go save as, go into my data folder under my meshes. You can put it wherever you want. I just wondered if I'd got a test thing. I'll go into DarkFox127, dummy objects. You'll see I've got some. And these are all wrong, by the way. All my old resource dummy objects, they don't have that alpha transparency because I didn't know about it. But what we can do is just go into objects here. I've already got one for ore, so I'm actually going to overwrite that. I'm just going to save it. And then we're going to go into the creation kit now, and we are going to throw us some ore in. So the way that you would do dummy objects, so if I look for another dummy object, it doesn't end here, guys. If we go into dummy object and we take book as an example, when you go into a dummy object, there is a keyword on it for dummy. I think this just makes sure the game knows that it's not really an item and for it not to display at all. And I think it also makes sure that it's a marker within the game so that when you do tap M, they disappear. But we are going to need that. So essentially what you want to do is whatever object it is that you're messing with, you want to go and find it, the one that you're making a dummy marker for. So I'm going to take my iron ore and I'm just going to rename this ID. So it's going to be DF test or dummy. And this is going to be dummy ore. I don't think it needs a name, actually. I think you can clear the name out. You don't want a name on it. Value doesn't matter. All of this changes because it's just a dummy. And then just delete any keywords in there. Confirm it. Create a new form of it so we don't overwrite ore. Go back into it, and then I'm just going to add the dummy keyword into there. And then under model, click edit. This is going to look different depending on the thing that you're messing with. Click edit again. Should go under your meshes folder. If it doesn't, you have to navigate there. Go under my DarkFox127 in this case, dummy object, objects, ore, and hopefully it doesn't crash the kit, which it hasn't. And as you can see, we've got some dummy ore, which is really neat. Okay on that. Okay on that. Drag my dummy ore in. I'm not going to go ahead and put loads in a bucket. Oh, great. We've got pigeon going off now. I'm just going to put one on here and double click into it. And then I'm going to put a leveled item to it. So L item. Ooh, is it? Oh, what is it? What is it? What is it? I think it might be L item blacksmith. And then he should have minerals. And it should be minerals raw, I believe. Because these are just raw minerals. I would really like a leveled item. There we go. Let's see. So if we go in and we can just double check the list, Yes, this will drop one of the ores on that ore marker, which is fantastic. So go ahead, do that. Okay, I'm going to save this. I'm going to make an ESP test dummy. Save it. And now what we're going to do, we're going to go in game. We're going to go to the Alchemist Shack. And we're going to use Alchemist Shack Exterior, the exact name. And we're going to see that a dummy ore has placed itself just to the right of this tankard and to the left of what will also be 2 dummy bugs. Okay, so here we are in game. Looking quite dull here. This is Legacy, by the way, not Special Edition. I do all my testing in Legacy as it doesn't affect my main playthrough. It also runs a lot better for recording at the moment before I do my new setup. And if we go into the shack here, look to the right, this shelf that we're working with, you'll see that 2 books have spawned and sort of landed on each other quite nicely. And also the iron ore is sitting right there in the exact orientation and position that we asked for, and it's randomized to an iron ore because we're only a standard level 1 when we sort of COC into the game. So there we go, that's it. It's as simple as that. You make yourself a dummy item if it's not already covered in the game. You set a leveled item to it, you make sure it's got the dummy keyword, and then you place it in the game and you're good to go. So that is just about it for this video. If you enjoyed it, please go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't already. You can also check out the rest of my work over on my website at www.darkfox27.co.uk, and please do consider supporting me over on Patreon, as it does help to create more videos like this one and also go into the rest of my content. And I feel like somebody's under attack. What was that? What is going on? I'm trying to end a video. Something was brutally murdered. I heard it. Alright, before the wolves come, thank you all very much for watching, and I'll speak to you all next time.